Queenagers, welcome. This is my February 1st Queenager newsletter. I'm writing this on the train, surrounded by chatting Queenagers as we make our way from under the Eiger and the other mighty mountains of the Jungfrau and Grindelwald to the airport in Zurich. We've had a fabulous week. Snow, slopes, support and so much fun. We set out as a bunch of strangers, united by a desire to make the most of midlife. We're returning firm friends. One of the women said, "I hate group holidays, but this has been amazing." I laughed and said, maybe noon is a group for people who hate groups. I love our noon trips because they demonstrate the absolute intention of our community in action, in real time. So what does that mean in terms of this week? Well, for me, what I learned is the power of pushing ourselves a bit, of not being scared to try something new. That takes all sorts of forms. For some, it was taking a leap of faith and booking a holiday with a whole bunch of women they didn't know, or friends they hadn't met yet. For me, the fear I was facing is very much around skiing itself. I did it a lot as a child, I know, privilege. But then in 2001, I had a very nasty smash and ruptured the cruciate ligament in my right knee. It took 3 operations and lengthy, painful physio to fix it. For about 15 years after that, I didn't ski at all. I was too traumatised. In fact, I promised myself I never would ski again. And then when my kids started to be interested, I did go. But it was pretty scary. And when I put on ski boots again for the first time, I burst into tears. I just couldn't do it. Gradually, on gentle slopes, I rekindled my love for the sport, but I was a committed boulevard skier. That meant only in nice weather and on very green slope, prioritising not falling over anything else. And dear reader, if a black run was required or the snow came in, I got in the cable car pretty damn quick. I became an ego-free skier. Fast forward to this week, and I feel like I'm a skier reborn. For the first time in my life, I learned to ski in bad light and even in deep powder snow. The difference was an instructor who improved my technique enough for me to feel in control, even in the dark and in the deep stuff. And I cannot describe the joy of doing fast turns in fresh powder snow, or the almost miraculous feeling of mastering something new at 55 that I couldn't do when I was in my 20s. Yes, I even fell over. I took a bit of a flyer. I lost the ski. I went flying down the hill, but it didn't hurt and I got up laughing. And in a way, that was another Rubicon. And I felt just emboldened by this mountain full of the fluffy white stuff, the most incredible snow. And hey presto, I could do it. It felt like floating, flying. The beauty of the mountains around, the slither of the skis, the exhilaration of doing something physical at 55 that I'd never managed before. It wasn't just me either. My 2 Queenager companions in the group also surprised themselves by hitting the powder. And when one of them followed our guide off a ledge for a little jump, I found myself doing that too. It felt good. We egged each other on and found a prowess and a courage together that we hadn't expected and wouldn't have accessed if we were alone. We surprised ourselves in what our midlife bodies were capable of. We even impressed our 30-year-old male instructor. He sent me the most lovely WhatsApp after we'd finished that day saying, "Thank you all again for a great few days and an outrageous morning. I probably had more fun than is reasonable on a work day. Your group's willingness to just give it a bloody go today was so good. If you'd have told me we'd be doing this," that means skiing in the powder, "this morning or a few days ago, I wouldn't have believed you. You can all be incredibly proud of yourselves. It was very humbling to me as you all completely shattered my assumption about what would be possible with a group like yours. All the very best, and to you and all the rest of the Queenagers." That message, you can imagine, really made my day because everything we're trying to do at Noon is about telling a different story about what's possible for women in midlife, that this is the age of opportunity, at the time when we can really become the women that we wanted to be. I so believe that we're not done yet, that there really is, as my book says, much more to come, that we can challenge the assumptions that society makes about women at this point. And that's why I love these noon trips. They really embody all of that in real time and demonstrate to everyone that we come across these key principles, even a young male ski instructor. Of course, doing something that scares you doesn't have to be flinging your body down a mountain. It can just be coming on the trip in the first place. That's pretty brave. One of the Queenagers had come all the way from Bermuda. She's been part of our online circle. She said she'd always wanted to try skiing, and she did do it, but in the end she decided it wasn't really for her. But her epiphany, her word, was that she didn't have to ski to enjoy being in the mountains. She and some of the others on one of the days spent several hours riding around on all the cable cars and trains in the Jungfrau, admiring the splendour of what's called the roof of Europe. Did you know that the inventor of modern skiing was a vicar who in Murren, which is just next to Grindelwald, and he talked about how being in the mountains made him feel closer to God. There is something magic, moving, dare I say spiritual, about looking down on the clouds, dwarfed by the majesty of the mighty peaks. Our Bermudan lady's breakthrough was realising that she could still access all of that beauty and really be in it and feel the mountains without having to ski, that there was so much to do without slithering around. Some of the women, including our wonderful new editorial director, Jennifer Howes, were skiing beginners. And Jen also described how she felt thrilled to point my skis downhill, to be brave enough to pick up speed, to feel the thrill and begin to master something I'd never done before. It felt so good to learn something physically new at 56. Circle host, our wonderful noon circle host in Bristol, Trish, who won our Queenager ski trip award for being guardian angel, gosh, she's a nice woman, explained how at school she'd been written off as unsporty. She said she was always the last to be picked for teams because she was short-sighted, and how that sense of kind of having been physically a bit unworthy had stayed with her for much of her life. But now in retirement, she's realising that it's just not true. She skis beautifully, something she took up late in life. She walked miles with me in Morocco, and she's in the best shape of her life, definitely. And she said to me, looking at my mother who's ageing and getting frailer, I realised that the key to health span is taking more exercise, really embracing it, pushing myself and finding such joy and realising I really can do these things that I always thought I couldn't. She's right. Trusting ourselves, particularly our bodies, to do something new in midlife opens up the possibility of living in a new way, breaking through a fear barrier into a new kind of potential. It's a sense of, wow, if I can surprise myself by doing that, what else could I do? It's like we find a whole doorway into a new floor of ourselves and the potential that gives us. What was wonderful about the trip was that we all overcame something, whether that was a Queenager who took a train and a plane by herself for the first time ever. She's getting divorced next week after 40 years. Or another who managed to expose her body with its surgery scars in the nude sauna. It's very Swiss. There's a sign on the door saying no swimsuits, nude zone. But she managed to take all her clothes off in the spa, having spent years hiding her scars, and felt good about it. And perhaps most movingly at all, there was one Queenager who'd lost her husband and some others really close to her. And as we swished down through the silent forest, surrounded by trees covered with snow, like something out of a fairy tale, she said that she could feel the presence of those who she'd lost. And wiping tears from her eyes, she talked about how good it was to really feel that. And that is, the point is that we can all push our boundaries a bit, finding something that we, didn't think that we could do, that we can do now. And that indeed by doing that, we start to live better. We start to access that same power in ourselves to do all sorts of things that we've never done before. Of course, that can also be around saying no. One woman who admitted she'd always been a people pleaser announced one morning when it was snowing really hard that she was not going to ski at all that day. She said she didn't fancy it. She was going to hang out and do exactly what she felt like. And that was really brave for her. Saying no, not going with the crowd, was a muscle she'd never really exercised. exploring what she wanted to do for her was a real step forward, putting up that boundary and also finding out our own boundaries and what works for us. It's a really important bit of queenagerdom. That is what enables us to become the women we always want to be. And for all of us, that shift is different. I'm back home now, you can see me in my study, but that sense of having opened up a spacious new part of myself, have found a whole new realm of possibility, is invigoratingly alive still in my body and my mind. And at its best, I think Noon really encourages and supports that kind of shift. It's as if being surrounded by other Queenagers who are also pushing their own boundaries and exploring bits of themselves allows us to do things together that we could never do on our own. It's quite miraculous. So do come along, join us at either a Noon Circle. We've got some new ones opening up this week, one in Colchester. I'm going to go down there and be there. So if you'd like to come and meet me, do come. And another new one in Cheshire. So if you're up north, do go and check it out. It's just near Ledsham. Have a great week. And remember, you really are never too old and it's never too late to become the woman that you always wanted to be. And that woman just might surprise you. Much love. See you soon. Eleanor.